our top focus at this hour. India is sending a clear message to the world. It will not compromise on its energy security or strategic autonomy, in fact. Speaking amid mounting Western criticism of India's continued oil trade with Russia, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar defended New Delhi's stand, stressing that buying Russian crude is just in India's national interest, but also it contributes to global market stability. Let's listen into what the minister had to say on this.
Second issue, in a way, is being presented as an oil issue. But why I say is being presented is because the same arguments which have been used to target India have not been applied to the largest oil importer, which is China, has not been applied to the largest LNG importer, which is the European Union. When people say we are funding the war or putting money in the coffers of Putin, India-European Union trade is bigger than India-Russia trade. So is American money not, European money not putting money into Putin's coffers? So, and if you look even at trade, look at countries
You say they are getting more from Europe than from us? Is that the point?
The overall Russia-EU trade is bigger than Russia-India trade. So my point is, look, if the argument is energy, there are bigger buyers. If the argument is who's trading more, there are bigger traders. If the argument is, by the way, percentage of increase, okay? Now, yes, some countries haven't increased the percentage because they've gone and bought oil from Iran, okay? To which also the Americans have objections. So my point, look, there is a certain inconsistency here. And if you look even at exports, I mean, India's exports to Russia have grown, but not that much. I can think of some other countries whose exports have grown dramatically after 2022. And if our exports have suddenly surged, you know what that means.
Viewers, this defense of India's oil diplomacy comes at a time when New Delhi is also recalibrating its broader foreign policy, forced in part by US President Donald Trump's tariff offensive, in fact. Now, Trump's decision to slap 50% tariffs on Indian goods, a punitive measure tied to India's Russian oil imports, has pushed New Delhi to widen its strategic and economic engagements at this point. In fact, India is now deepening energy ties not only with Russia, but also with Brazil, which, like India, is also facing Trump's tariff wall. And at the same time, India has also opened formal trade negotiations with the Eurasian Economic Union, a Russia-led bloc of 5 countries with a combined GDP of more than $6.5 trillion. Let's listen into what experts have to say on this.
We are seeing it, statements which are coming out, it should continue. But the interesting thing is that there is a talk of an acronym RIC, Russia, India, China kind of getting together. My only thing is that it should not be RIC. It should be, the terminology which should be used should be IRC. You see, very often your positioning defines how you're approaching. It should be IRC discussion. But back to the big picture. You see, in a big picture, it's a wonderful discussion you're having, of course, with enlightened mind as a master and General Kulkarni. The way I look at the world is that there are only 2 types of people in this world. There are friends and potential friends. Even my foe or my enemy today can be a potential friend down the line. So that's the, I think, paradigm with which India goes and should go with its geopolitical views and stance, and especially with the United States. That's one. Secondly, you are talking about, and I do think it seems that, the peace talks are stalling. So the Ukraine mediation doesn't seem to be moving. So there will be probably no relief from Russian oil sanctions for India or the tariffs on. In fact, there could be bills in the US Senate and the House which move and which could talk about 100% tariffs. We don't know, that's the US Congress. So it doesn't seem very rosy on that. Talking about Trump's fascination for a Nobel Prize, on the day of the Alaska meeting, I think General Kulkarni might recollect because I keep repeating many things with him often. On the eve of that day, we had, my think tank Imagine India, sent out a media release and all, proposing that if this Alaska meeting results in a 30-day ceasefire, no violence, 30 days only, we are nominating him for the Gandhi Peace Prize. Okay. I mean, we are nominating him to the government of India, but that would have been conditional only.
That is only a 30. That's
No,
only if there's a
fair
30-day
enough.
ceasefire.
Hear me out, please. Hear me out, please. But that is conditional only on 30 days of non-violence. You know, 1 day of violence, if it kills even one child, one man, hurts, cuts off a finger or a soul, that's a huge thing. So if you can achieve 30 days of non-violence, okay, India should consider awarding him a Gandhi Peace Prize. Now, the quick last point, you see, so the impact of these tariffs would be that we would face economic loss. Without doubt, we will not be able to, redirect, find new markets. There will be job losses in the Indian market. However, this is a time for India to stand up. Korea, Japan, etc. were not built in a single day. India has to work hard. We have to improve our productivity, our ease of doing business. And in fact, I am advocating for another aspect. For 1 year under an economic emergency in these historical times, India should go in for a 6-day work week, which will deliver a 2% increase in India's GDP. Come on, tighten up your pants, tighten your shoes, stand up and do. India has to display that resilience, and that's the kind of a moment of history we are in.
China has been needling us since 1950. There is no denying the fact. You can't trust China for whatever it is. Its expansion is fast. But yes, China is a neighbor, and definitely a neighbor which is the second largest economy, touching almost $20 trillion. We are just about 4.5. We will be going to about $5 trillion. With almost the same population and the kind of development that there is in China. Well, definitely China has it has a comprehensive national power far greater than India. We must accept it. But then, trust but verify. Good relationship with China helps China, it helps India. But definitely, nobody can bully India. Nobody can push over India. India, what is most important, the red line is absolutely clear. Peace and tranquility along the LAC, and all that we negotiate must be adhered to and must be followed in total. If China is willing to do it, by all means, why not? But China is our neighbor, will remain a neighbor, and a good neighborly relations are definitely good in the interest of both the countries, but definitely not as a hedge, just because America seems to be, no, it's a relationship with China, which means as good neighbors, primarily based on respect for each other, respect for the kind of treaties that we sign, and definitely peace and tranquility along the LAC.